We're in Provence, in the southern part of France, for day 7 of the 8-day race between Paris and Nice. British rider Bradley Wiggins has the overall lead, but 5 riders, including 2 Americans, are within 40 seconds of him. The penultimate stage of Paris-Nice next. At last, 2 great warriors outfox the peloton of the sprinters. In the drag race to the line, Luis Leon Sanchez edges ahead of the crowd favourite German Jens Voigt. Behind, all of the top contenders finish in the main pack, carefully monitoring each other. On today's last road stage, the result could be decided on the downhill charge into Nice. It's Paris-Nice, stage 7, next on the NBC Sports Network. The world-renowned Promenade des Anglais alongside the welcoming Mediterranean awaits the survivors of this year's Paris-Nice. Hello and welcome to the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra for Stage 7, the longest stage of the race at 136 miles between Sisteron and Nice in the southern part of France. I'm Paul Sherwin, alongside me is Bob Roll. Bob, this has been, as far as I'm concerned, a very difficult Paris-Nice, and throwing in a long stage down towards the end could be fireworks.
Most definitely. After the toughest Paris-Nice in years, stage 7 to Nice is yet another arduous climbing stage that will put race leader Bradley Wiggins' Team Sky's feet to the fire. Every stage has been explosive so far in this year's Paris-Nice, and today promises more fireworks.
We've expected every day to see the challenge come to Bradley Wiggins, who still holds on to that yellow jersey at the top of the overall classification, but it's not very much at all. In fact, it's a mere 6 seconds his lead over the second-place rider Louis Vistre. 10 seconds back to Levi Leipheimer, and watch out today for Alejandro Valverde. He needs 18 seconds to get himself into the top spot. Having slipped away from the top of the standings, TJ Van Garderen may use today's stage as an opportunity to move that little bit closer to the podium position he would like when we get down into Nice at the final time trial tomorrow. This will be a very difficult stage. Bob, take us through the map because it's the longest stage of the race.
The race will start in Sisteron. The finishing town from yesterday's stage is 219.5 kilometers, or a whopping 136-mile race. A lot of tough climbs out on the race course and a very tough Category 1 on the Col de Vence that will test the legs of some very fatigued men. A long, sweeping 26-mile descent into the finishing town of Nice and right up against the Côte d'Azur.
Well, earlier today, this is what happened in a very action-packed early part of the race. After 48 kilometers, 2 riders got clear. Thomas de Kent, who's just making the move here, and Reim Tarameh. As they got to the summit of the Col de Vence, it looked as if the Estonian rider in the red jersey of Cofidis was actually trying to shed Thomas de Kent, but it went the other way round, Bob.
It was the first attack being put in by Reim Tarameh, but Thomas de Kent finishing him off on the slopes of the Col de Vence. Solid climbing by the man that was in the King of the Mountains jersey earlier in Paris-Nice, a stage winner from last year, Thomas de Kent.
Well, as the cycling fans of the Mediterranean area come out to witness this rider going over the top of the Col de Vence, the time gap 11 minutes and 20 seconds over the main field. He gets maximum points once again. He went over the top of all 4 climbs of the day in first position.
It won't matter. His teammate Vukelen has a wrap on that King of the Mountain jersey, but Thomas de Kent, he's going for the stage win at this point. He goes over the top of the Col de Vence with just about a 12-second lead on the man following him, Reim Tarameh. They've been in the break throughout the day, but it's Thomas de Kent just a little bit stronger on the slopes of the Col de Vence.
Over the summit of the Col de Vence, the race has 55 kilometers left to go, or 35 miles of racing, and a little bit of duking it out for the 3rd and 4th place on the open road. The man who'd led this competition, Luis Angel Mate, on the left-hand side in the red jersey, gets himself 3rd place, and 4th place goes to Frederik Vukelen, who is the leader and now the consolidated winner, as long as he gets to the top of the Col d'Ez tomorrow in the King of the Mountains competition. Right now to real live pictures, 40 kilometers to go, and it's 12 minutes back, Bob, a whole 12 minutes right the way back to the yellow jersey group. However, this man is not that dangerous in the overall standings. He started the day in 64th place, a long way behind 15 minutes and 44 seconds behind Bradley Wiggins.
It's a long, twisting descent into Nice from the top of the Col d'Avance, and that is not just 11:20 over the top, but 12 minutes now to Thomas de Gendt. That's an incredible effort on a descent to be able to extend your lead on a charging peloton.
As we look at the back end of the main field, I can tell you that after 130 kilometers, the third-place rider in the overall standings, Levi Leipheimer, was involved in a very nasty crash. He did manage to get up, and he is back in the main field as we look at it. So Paris-Nice is underway. There's lots more action to come. Stage 7, just a brief look there at the Promenade des Anglais in Nice. That's where these riders are going to. We're now 35 kilometers to go to the finish, 20 miles of racing, and the gap is still locked in, only just inside of that 12-minute margin, 11 minutes and 50 seconds. But Bob, as you look at the magnificent backdrop here of the Provence, les Alpes de Provence, the main field is stretched out into an extremely long line, and the fact that Movistar have come to the front must tell you something.
Alejandro Valverde, the Movistar captain, wants some time. He's not the best time trialist in the world. It is uphill, so that advantage swings over to Valverde a little bit. Movistar absolutely hossing it on this descent, and a huge pile up in that corner.
Well, a lot of riders taking races. 3 or 4 riders gone down there, Bob, very, very nasty. There must be one of the leaders has gone down there too. Looks as if it's Damiano Cunego. That crash happened right at the front end of the main field. There's Levi Leipheimer. Now, that would mean that Levi Leipheimer, Bob, has gone down for a second time. You might just see him pushing his jersey there. That's the push-to-talk button on his radio, talking back to the team management. I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with the bike, but the teammates here, Bob, think there is.
The bike is a disaster. He looks to be very sore, very slow to get up. Levi Leipheimer, I just saw him coming out of the pack on the right-hand side of the peloton as Movistar swung through those 2 technical corners. He must have been caught out on that corner hard to the left. He was on the wrong side of the peloton and went flying off the road, and he's had a very slow time getting up. In the meantime, Movistar is on the front chasing Thomas de Gendt so that Alejandro Valverde has a chance to win this race overall.
Well, I tell you what, Bob, this morning I think you predicted this when we were talking over breakfast. You said this race today is not going to be decided on the climbs, it'll be decided on the descents, and that seems to be exactly what's unfolding in front of our eyes.
It's been a very hard week of racing, and this has been a very tough stage. You could be forgiven for being totally exhausted coming down this last descent of Paris-Nice, but you have to pay attention. Everything's at stake in the finish in Nice.
Well, there you can see the long line of the main field, and there a little bit further back we're wondering whether or not Levi Leipheimer will be able to get back at speeds like this. Here he is, got a couple of teammates up alongside him. Bob, when you're in a situation like this, penultimate day, the time trial's coming up tomorrow, you've got to stay calm and collected. He's got to use his teammates, hasn't he, to pace himself back.
Seems to be pedaling okay now at this point. He has 3 men with him. Looks like Tom Bonin has come back to help him get back into the field. Levi Leipheimer, desperate moments now, trying to catch the peloton. Movistar, they have a whole nother job. They might not even know that Levi Leipheimer has crashed. They're trying to move Alejandro Valverde into a position to win this bike race. This is going to be a long, hard chase for Levi and his Omega Quick-Step teammates.
These are unbelievable racing roads in the Arrière-Pays, the background behind these, and they're great for racing. They're also great for riders who are extremely tactical. They're looking to try and get the cars past if they can. They're looking for any kind of help that they've got. He's looking at about 30 seconds, Bob, deficit on the back end of the main field. He's got to stay calm, but look how that main field is stretched out. There are gaps appearing. We were probably doing here very close to 40 miles an hour.
Movistar on the front of the peloton, the teammates of Levi Leipheimer asking the cars to come around so they can get in between the back of the peloton and their little chase group. That might give them a chance to get back into this big group of riders. Levi Leipheimer, this is the most desperate situation he's faced throughout the week of racing. He's had a perfect Paris-Nice so far. One of his dreams as a professional is to win this stage race. He's won nearly every other week-long stage race on the calendar. He's been on the podium of Grand Tours, and this would be a great feather in his cap if he could catch back into the peloton and do a good time trial tomorrow.
Yeah, Bobby's got to do so. He's got to put it all on the line right now with his teammates. He started the day. He hadn't had any bad luck at all through the whole of this week of racing. He starts the day in 3rd place overall, looking for a mere 10 seconds. That could all get wiped away on the penultimate road stage.
Yes, absolutely. It's been an ideal Paris-Nice so far for Levi Leipheimer, but today everything has gone poorly. All of his good luck has turned into 2 crashes and the worst possible luck imaginable. This is a very strategic point in the race. If he had fallen down at just about any other time, he would have been able to catch back up. But on this long twisting descent, it's going to be very challenging.
Well, we're looking now at the lone leader, Thomas de Kent, 11 minutes and 40 seconds, 31 kilometers, 19 miles of racing. He has absolutely no idea what's going on behind him. He will plow a lonely furrow at the front end of the bike race while everybody else scrambles to get back in. Magnificent little towns here, Bob, while this man is making a magnificent solo effort. The winner of the first stage of Paris-Nice last year, he's looking to steal the glory once again here this afternoon. That little bell tower you can see, very reminiscent, a very typical Provençal style. But Thomas de Kent and his team, Bob, throughout the whole of this week of bike racing have been superb.
They have been very, very strong. They had a stage win in the opening time trial with Gustav Larsson, another stage win in the Queen stage up to the Monde climb, and that was won by Louis Westra, who finds himself now just 6 seconds behind Bradley Wiggins in the overall standings.
Well, there you might just have noticed, almost forgotten there in the medal court in no man's land, because right in there in second place, 2.5 minutes back to Raim Taramé. Well, this man last year was superb in Paris-Nice. He went on to win 3 races on his season, but it was in the opening day that he managed to surprise everybody on the run-in towards the finish, stealing the victory and the glory away from the sprinters with a mad dash to the line. And that, of course, was on the circuit race around Houdan. And he got himself, because of that, Bob, he got himself the leader's jersey, and in fact he wore the leader's jersey for 3 days. That was 12 months ago. This is today, and this is a fine performance.
Trying to do the same thing today. He has just 25 kilometers between himself and glory, and a huge 11-minute 15-second advantage. Gorgeous scenery, but an ugly crash to Levi Leipheimer, who started the day 3rd overall.
Yes, it's a good 12 minutes back to the main field. One man still caught in no man's land, Raim Taramé. He's 2.5 minutes behind Thomas de Kent. If you think this is beautiful, well, it certainly is. Those were the Alps of the Haute-Provence, and on the front of the main field, possibly for the last chance for them before we go into the final individual time trial, Team Movistar from Spain. They are completely different, Bob, from the team they were last year because of the comeback to the sport of Alejandro Valverde. Now, Omega Pharma Quickstep are having a very serious time here. They've dropped even more riders back to help that man there, number 6, Levi Leipheimer, on the back foot now.
Levi Leipheimer, so far in the Paris-Nice race this year, he's had the most decorated domestiques of all time. Tony Martin has been guiding him, the world time trial champion Sylvain Chavanel, champion of France, and Big Tom Bonin helping Levi so far. And now they've come back. They've only left the one man, and that is Sylvain Chavanel, the champion of France from Omega, still in the front group. The rest of the teammates are all trying to help Levi Leipheimer catch back on. And you can see this long line of riders and big gaps opening up. Can you imagine what it would be like to be chasing when it's already blowing to pieces from the front of the peloton?
Sorry about the little bit of picture breakup every now and again, but these are live pictures coming from a motorbiker following the bike riders, getting beamed up to a helicopter and down to the finish line in Nice. So every now and again, a little tree gets in the way, a little glitch in the system, but we bring you all of the excitement of this chase. In 4th position there, Levi Leipheimer got his teammates all around him. They're trying to save his podium position here in Paris-Nice. Started the day just 10 seconds off the overall lead. Now, Bob, when you read that arrière de la course in French, that means you are at the back end of the bike race. Not a good place to be.
Back of the peloton, a little bit of a false flat here during this long twisting descent, and that's giving a chance for the team cars to come through and fill that gap. I think it might be a pretty sizable gap there, or the commissars would not let the team cars come through. Levi Leipheimer looks to be okay, looks to be pedaling well, following his teammates, but I wonder if he is not smarting from that crash. He's back on his bike, but he's not really making that much progress back into this big field.
Good point to make, though, Bob. This has been a very difficult, very hard Paris-Nice. Levi Leipheimer's 2nd crash of the day. It has been a hard event this year, and even this morning, 5 riders failed to come out to the start. Guys like Lee Howard, Marcus Burkhardt, Lars Bach, Jimmy Ongelvon, and Remy de Gregorio, none of them starting. I think, yes, 1 or 2 riders suffering from a little bit of gastroenteritis, but I think that's more than likely to do with the fact that this has been a very tough race.
And let's not forget Denis Menchov, winner of the Vuelta a España and Giro d'Italia, very decorated bike racer, one of the best in the business, unable to start on today's stage. It's been a very, very tough week of racing.
Well, it has, but you know, another thing as well, Bob, when you crash on a descent for the second time, you lose your nerve for a little while, don't you? You then start taking the wrong line around the corners, and it's difficult to get yourself back into the right frame of mind to race and get yourself back into the event.
Psychologically tough, physically also. You take a couple of hard smashes to the body by crashing. It takes a while to get the rhythm back into the legs, and when the peloton is streaking to the finish line, we're just about 12 miles, 13 miles now to go to the line. They're going flat out in the front, and it's very tough for these 5 men. It's going to be almost impossible for Levi Leipheimer to catch. And there is the time gap closing in on 1 minute now behind the peloton. 12 minutes, that's behind our leader, but 11 minutes to the peloton. Levi still has a lot of work to do to catch back up.
Well, Bob, a minute at this point of the stage would put Levi Leipheimer right outside of the top 10 in the overall standings for a man who has been dreaming about getting himself a podium position. You can see the red, white, and blue. I have to say, Omega Pharma Quick-Step, very, very sensible, leaving their champion of France in that leading group because they're pretty certain that they've got enough firepower behind with guys like Steen Vandenberg for Omega Pharma Lotto to slowly but surely pace Levi Leipheimer back in. But with this hammer down, with this team from Spain, with those lime green helmets on the front, it's going to be a hard call for him.
It's going to be a very tough call. Thomas Dehaene on the front of the bike race still. This tough Belgian can ride into the win. After all, he was third in the final time trial of last year's Tour de France. He actually finished fourth, but Alberto Contador was asked to remove himself from the results. Thomas Dehaene third in a Tour de France time trial. You know this man is capable of doing a solo effort.
He's got power, and he's also got the dedication and the morale, because we said earlier on this week, Bob, when you're in a race, when you're getting success, the success tends to breed and trickle through the whole of the team. Levi Leipheimer has pulled back another 5 seconds. He's now looking for 50 seconds to get himself to the back end of that main field. It's going to be a long, hard squad. There, you can almost see them, Bob, just on the other side of the valley. There is the group that he wants to be with. But for Levi Leipheimer, this is going to be a very long, hard chase. He could just about touch the main field, but he's going to have a long, hard ride to get himself back into Paris-Nice this year. Welcome back. I have to tell you, the excitement on the roads of Paris-Nice here this afternoon are because of the downhill part of the course, because Levi Leipheimer, sitting in fourth position in this chasing group now, has lost himself currently 50 seconds over all of the other favourites. And Bob, it looks as if the downhill is going to be the most precarious part of today's stage.
A few cars in between Levi and his teammates, between themselves and the peloton. They can just tack onto the back of those team cars. They can use those. Whoa! Oh my goodness, Dries David is almost coming to grief right there. And that is the last team car, the Cofidis squad. Now they can slingshot through there to get back into the group.
Ooh, I tell you what, that man has got very, very good reflexes. They're nervous, these guys. Now, Bob, I think they'll start to feel that little bit more relief. Levi Leipheimer, brief reminder there, had a crash after 130 kilometers of the race. He fought to get himself back in on that occasion. Then about 15 kilometers ago, he had another crash. Now, Bob, the fact that he's got himself to the convoy of team cars, I think he's got a good chance of making it into the peloton.
A little bit of bad luck to catch up to the cars through this village. They were asked to stop by the commissar, and now the team will have to get across the gap without any aerodynamic advantage from those team cars. Yes, after the initial shock to the body and the psyche, Levi, with the help of his teammates, seems to have recovered. He's got a good pedaling rhythm going down, but this is a graphic illustration of why bike racing is a team sport. Without teammates, they will never have a chance to catch up. Half of the team has come back, and they're trying to get Levi back into the peloton.
Technically, Bob, I would have to say it depends very much now on exactly how the race referees handle this situation. We know that Levi Leipheimer is coming back from a technical problem. He had a very nasty crash, his second one of the day. If the race referees decide to pull the cars out of the gap, it's going to make it a lot harder for him to catch up.
Most certainly. There's still a couple of cars up there. Neutral support car still following the peloton. Of course, the race commissar's car just in front of that, and behind, so tantalizingly close, is the peloton. But the more technical it is, the more the advantage goes over to the Omega Quick-Step riders that are chasing, and they can really make up some time. Movistar, however, is doing the same thing. They have 4 or 5 guys on the front of the peloton going flat out, and there they are. and the quick-step Omega riders are trying to catch up. But because of the greater numbers, the inertia of the peloton, it's very tough to catch up.
Bob, you started talking about teams. It's important to have a team. It's important to have a strong team around you if you want to get yourself back into this race. And the time gap is telling us it's still 55 seconds back to Levi Leipheimer. At the start of today, there were only 151 riders left in this bike race of the 176 who left Paris, and only 6 teams had a full complement of riders. One of them was this team, Omega Pharma Quickstep, the teammates of Levi Leipheimer. The other, Movistar, the teammates of Alejandro Valverde. They were teams that were complete. The others are Europcar, Garmin, Barracuda and Lamprey. It's important to have strength in numbers when you come down to the end of a race because of situations like this that can unfold.
Heaven forbid Levi and his teammates do not catch back up into the peloton. They would have a real bone to pick with the Movistar squad. They're probably not going to catch Thomas de Gent. Why not hesitate for 1 or 2 kilometers, let Levi get back in, and let Levi and Alejandro Valverde fight it out in the final time trial.
I'll tell you what, Bob, Levi Leipheimer is having a hard time staying on the wheel of his teammates there. I think he's probably rattled because of those 2 crashes. He's backing off a little bit, and that is going to make him expend an awful lot more energy. If he ever does get back into this race, that's going to tell tomorrow when it comes to the individual time trial.
Well, if he doesn't catch back up, his chances are over. So the first job, even before tomorrow, is catch back into this peloton, and I think it would enrage Levi Leipheimer to see these images of the Movistar team going flat out to the finish line, and that could conceivably have Valverde pass Levi on the overall standings before the final time trial. That'd be a little bit of an embarrassment for Movistar, to be quite honest with you.
Well, Movistar, as far as I'm concerned, Bob, they'd started that move before Levi Leipheimer crashed. They probably didn't even know Levi Leipheimer had actually gone down onto the ground, and they are racing to try and put Alejandro Valverde into a winning position. You know, it's very, very difficult to be in a situation like this on the run-in towards the finish. We've just gone to inside of 16 kilometers to go. That's 10 miles of racing. Forget about Thomas de Gent here this afternoon, Bob, because he's still got an 11-minute advantage. He's going to steal the glory away from everybody else, but there's a lot of tactics can still go on behind.
Most certainly, Thomas de Gent there. Stage winner in Paris last year, we saw a little bit earlier. Also in the Tour of Switzerland, he had a big stage win. And as I said, 3rd in the final time trial of last year's Tour de France.
Oh, and Levi is, you know, another thing, Bob, to note. You can see the bike there that he's riding. He doesn't have a number on. It's not his normal bike. And sometimes, even though nowadays almost all of these bicycles, they're almost identical, when you get on a bike that you've not been using a lot, sometimes it doesn't respond quite the same.
Absolutely ragged through those corners. Levi Leipheimer not inheriting the kingdom on this descent whatsoever. The spare bike could be a bit of a problem. A little bit different braking there, and each wheel surface to the rim contact point is a little bit different, but Levi is really struggling now on this descent. He's going to have lost a little bit of time on that last corner. Even though the gap is coming down, they have to catch them within the next 4 or 5 kilometers, or it's not going to happen.
You're right, because once we get away from this part of the descent, we're onto the flat run-in to the Promenade des Anglais, and it's going to be much more difficult for those guys at the back to get into the event. And the amazing thing is, though, that Levi Leipheimer, he's now come back to 40 seconds off the back end of the peloton. Going to be a hard chase for Levi Leipheimer, but maybe a long, lonely, triumphant ride for Thomas de Gent. With all the excitement here at Paris-Nice, don't forget you can also see Tirreno Adriatico with daily coverage on Universal Sports at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now we're looking at the Movistar, the big team from Spain here. They put all of their men, all of their eggs into one basket here this afternoon because they are trying to blow this race apart, and quite hopefully for them, they're trying to eliminate Levi Leipheimer. They've gone down again. Bob, I do not believe this. This is awful luck. This is terrible luck for Levi Leipheimer. That is unbelievable.
Absolute disaster for the whole team. Levi on the back of that group, policeman's motorbike, they crash into that sideways, and riders from the peloton also crashed previously. The Lamprey, Damiano Cunego, also down on that corner.
Well, Matty Lloyd, I think, was the rider from Lamprey who went down just over on the left-hand side, and Levi Leipheimer, that was a very nasty crash. Number 5 there is Dries Deveners. He was doing great work. He's a little bit, he looks a little bit out of it there. Number 6 there is Levi Leipheimer, but Bob, that was a hard crash.
Full speed, sliding around this last corner. A policeman, you got to get off the road. He had stopped for the rider from Lamprey, and then Levi, nowhere to go, plows into the back of that. Dries Devenens also right on his chin. He is concussed at the moment. unbelievable drama on this last descent. The stage looked to be going perfectly at the top of the last climb, but it's all gone south on the last descent of the race.
Well, Bob, coming around that corner, you've just got you're taking risks, you're going full on, then all of a sudden when there's a motorbike in the way, you can't change direction, can you? There's nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go there, and they're taking a close look at Dries Davenants. He might be out of Paris-Nice. Levi Leiper looked to be getting back on his bicycle, and chances of catching now are almost zero for Levi Leipheimer.
Well, that was Wilfred Peters we were talking to just the other day on the telephone, getting us some insight about what was going on with Omega Pharma Quickstep. Levi Leipheimer riding off there into the distance. I think his Paris-Nice is over with that, Bob.
Absolutely. It's almost impossible. It's going to take Levi Leipheimer a long time just to get going. Let's not forget, at the front of the peloton, they're absolutely flying down this mountain.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, this was absolutely unbelievable. They've come round there in a tight squad. You've got there, that's Matty Lloyd, the Australian rider on Team Lamprey. He was being protected by the policeman, but these guys are in a full line coming round the corner, nowhere else to go, and they just plowed into the back of the gendarme.
The gendarme there, he should have been off to the side of the road. Matty Lloyd, he's the Lamprey rider. He crashed just moments before Levi Leipheimer and his teammates came flying around that corner. He has given up the ghost in Paris-Nice, but 3 crashes in one day, an absolute pandemonium for Omega Quickstep. Top of the last climb, everything looked to be in order, but an incredible turn of events for Omega and Levi Leipheimer.
Well, I'm sorry, Bob, I've got to say that's all over for Levi Leipheimer. It casts my mind back to, I was telling you the story about Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly won this bike race on 7 years in a row. And about the 3rd or the 4th time as we see Tony Martin ride alongside Levi Leipheimer here, he was in 2nd place overall to Joop Zoetemelk. I said, well, Sean, you've lost it today. You're not going to win Paris-Nice this year, are you? And he says, watch out for the descent down to the finish line because everyone's going to crash. Kelly crashed once, Joop Zoetemelk crashed twice, and he gave up the ghost, and Kelly went on to win Paris-Nice for the 4th time, then went on to win it 3 more times afterwards.
Tony Martin playing the faithful teammate. He's going to shepherd Levi Leipheimer all the way to the finish line. Tony Martin also coming down in that very dangerous corner with the policeman's motorbike right in the way of the riders chasing this man off the front of the field, Thomas de Gendt.
Well, I tell you what, with all of the excitements going on at the back of the race, you kind of forgot about Thomas de Gendt for a moment there. The winner of the opening stage last year. He's still, Bob, with 11 kilometers to go. That's 7 miles of racing. Hangs on to just inside of 11 minutes. It's going to be a glorious, victorious ride for him down the Promenade des Anglais in Nice.
This is a no-brainer for Thomas de Gendt at this point. And they were given a huge lead. Ryan Taramay and Thomas de Gendt throughout the stage. They had built up a 12-minute advantage. But in the last 20 kilometers, Thomas de Gendt, because of that technical descent, has only lost a couple of minutes of their maximum advantage. So great riding by the Vacansoleil Pro from Belgium, Thomas de Gendt, at the front of this field.
Well, let's not forget the man who wears the yellow jersey. You can see him every now and again popping into the into view. That's Bradley Wiggins. He's the most consistent rider on time in this year's Paris-Nice, and he's trailing the man who's been most consistent on the places on the individual stages. And that, of course, right in the middle there in the green jersey is Alejandro Valverde. The drama is that Levi Leipheimer at the start of the day was looking for 10 seconds and he was dreaming of winning Paris-Nice. That dream, I think, today has turned into a nightmare.
Nightmare indeed. It doesn't get much worse than that. The only good thing, they're all back on their bikes and trying to struggle to the finish line. Chaos for Omega Quickstep and a disaster for Levi Leipheimer.
Yes, one of those days. They haven't actually got to the bottom of the climb yet as we go through the small town here of Gatier. 06, by the way, is the number of the departement, and that, of course, is the Alpes Maritimes, and that's where we're charging through here. That main field stretched out into a very, very long line. They're hoping to try and pull back Thomas again. Well, that's not going to happen here this afternoon because that man, every time we've looked at him, Bob, does not look like a man who is weakening.
Movistar still on the front, and Alejandro Valverde in the green jersey looking for maybe a time bonus to get a little bit closer to the race leader, Bradley Wiggins. Bradley Wiggins has done a great stage so far. He's kept himself out of trouble, and he's avoided all of the drama that's befallen Omega Quickstep and Levi Leipheimer.
Very shortly, this man we're looking at here, Thomas de Gendt, will see the Mediterranean, and that's what he's been thinking about since this race left Paris. And from Paris to Nice, it's all about the Côte d'Azur. The blue sea of the Mediterranean will be on his right-hand shoulder for the last 5 or 6 miles of racing here this afternoon. And for him, it should be a great solo victory. It's been a nasty day for one or two riders, though, and poor old Levi Leipheimer. First crash at 130 kilometers, the next crash a little bit further down the road. As he was trying to pull himself back into this bike race, he went down again in a very dramatic manner. His Paris-Nice this afternoon, or his dreams of victory, are over. But for Thomas de Gendt, it should be good. Well, what a crazy, dramatic, incredible day here at Paris-Nice this afternoon as we look at this lone leader here, 3.5 kilometers from the finish. Thomas de Gendt has 10 minutes and 40 seconds advantage. He will have a long, long time to enjoy his solo victory here today.
A quick swing of the noggin towards his right shoulder, and you would see the beautiful Mediterranean Sea starting in the frozen tundra of northern France. This is what Paris-Nice is all about, the sun-bathed paradise of Nice, and a very tough a week of racing it has been to get down here, but this is what everyone's dreaming about, the warmer climates of this part of the country. Absolutely glorious day to greet Thomas de Gendt, triumphantly now streaking towards the finish line in Nice.
Well, he had 3 wins last year, and his glory all started in Paris-Nice on the opening stage when he leapt out of the pack and surprised everybody to get himself that first day victory. But since then, he and his team have actually shone throughout France and throughout Europe whenever they've come out to play. We're now looking down on the magnificent backdrop of the French Riviera and, of course, the town of Nice, which is the 5th largest town of France with a population of 350,000. And we have seen drama today on the roads of Paris-Nice for this Stage 7, Bob. What a nightmare day it has been for Levi Leipheimer, 3rd overall at the start of the day, now completely washed away with all those nasty accidents.
Agony for Levi Leipheimer, ecstasy for Thomas de Gendt, and between the two extremes is the peloton. They were led desperately by the Movistar squad, perhaps hoping to catch Thomas de Gendt. That's not going to happen. But Alejandro Valverde, if he got the time bonus for winning the sprint into Nice, which he's capable of doing, that would have moved him within 8 seconds of Bradley Wiggins and the overall win at Paris-Nice. We'll see if he can still climb well in the final time trial. Valverde, not a time trialing specialist, but 8 seconds difference is a lot different than 18 seconds. Bradley Wiggins sitting pretty in the peloton so far.
2 kilometers to go. Well, in the 1700s, the city of Nice, by the way, was not built up alongside the coastline here. It was much further inland, higher inland, away from the coastline. And in fact, it was the English who wanted to make this their holiday home for the summer. So that's why this promenade here has been given the nickname of the Promenade des Anglais. And strangely enough, if you carry on towards the end of the Promenade des Anglais, it becomes the key of the United States. And that is because this is pretty much where the landing started at the end of the Second World War to try and move up and chase the Germans away. So de Gendt just rocking and rolling his shoulders. I think we can allow him to do that, Bob, after a very long ride. And magnificent to see the palm trees here on the Promenade des Anglais. If you keep going past the finishing line, you'll get round to the old port as well. 5 minutes and 35 seconds it is back to the second place rider, Ryan Taramé. 11 minutes back to the main field. What a sight for sore eyes for Thomas de Gendt. The Flamme Rouge, as they call it in French, the red kite, 1,000 meters to go.
Worked well with Ryan Taramé throughout their breakaway, but then on the slopes of the Col d'Avance, Thomas de Gendt proved to be a little bit stronger than Ryan Taramé. His team has been on fire so far. Vacansoleil, 2 stage wins already. The opening stage went to Gustav Larsson. Louis Wiestra won to Monde on stage number 5. He finds himself only 6 seconds behind Bradley Wiggins. You would have gotten some very long odds for Vacansoleil to be so dominant in Paris-Nice. They still have a chance tomorrow to win overall. Louis Wiestra, a good time trialer, and also on the climbing form of his life, could overtake Bradley Wiggins if Wiestra has one of the best rides of his whole career. So Vacansoleil get another stage win today, but they might still win Paris-Nice overall.
Well, that's what they'll be looking for, but for this man, it's a lone victory. Bob, this is probably the best way you can ever win a bike race. You don't have to worry about the tactics. You don't have to worry about the sprint, as we saw yesterday between Luis Leon Sanchez and Jens Voigt. He has got the time in hand to enjoy this glorious victory.
Well, in Belgium, they say a photo with nobody else in the frame, and that's when you have such a big advantage that you can put your hands up in glory and celebration when no one else is in the frame. And he's opened up 5.5 minutes to the rider he was just with a few kilometers ago, Rayan Tarame. Fantastic victory for Thomas de Gent.
Well, Bob, to all of those people who write to me on many, many occasions, say, why do these guys go out on the breakaway? Because they always end up getting caught. Well, on this occasion, yesterday, the breakaway succeeded. Today, the breakaway has succeeded. A different name, though, this time, because Thomas de Gent gets his first victory of this year's season to add to 3 victories last year. One of those, of course, as well, was Paris-Nice. And what a magnificent crowd have turned out to enjoy it.
Huge crowd here in the sunshine, enjoying a spectacular, exciting, thrilling day of racing on the last open road stage of Paris-Nice for 2012, and Thomas de Gent taking out the win.
Well, as we now see Bradley Wiggins moving to the front end of the main field in second position there in that yellow jersey. The reason for that, he's going to have to be very attentive for any last-minute acceleration coming from Alejandro Valverde, because there is still a third-place finish left, and that third-place finish could get 4 seconds time bonus, which could be important tomorrow. So somewhere not too far away from us, Thomas de Gent is still celebrating. 6 minutes has gone by since he crossed the finishing line, and if you just look at the knee there, Bob, of Rayan Tarame, who survived for second place, he must have gone down pretty hard as well.
We were wondering what happened to Rayan Tarame. How could you lose that much time? Only 12 seconds down at the top of the climb, but coming to grief on that twisting descent that's claimed many a men from Paris-Nice this year. Rayan Tarame also crashing, but does hold on to second place. Importantly, taking that time bonus away from Alejandro Valverde or anybody else in the peloton.
Estonian time trial champion, 12th overall in the Tour de France last year, and now it's all eyes down for the big sprint down towards the end. Watch out for the green jersey of Alejandro Valverde. He will be looking to see whether or not he can get himself that 4-second time bonus. There's a big lead out being organised, Bob. It looks to me as if it's the dark blue jerseys of Team Movistar, and probably right up near the front of that pack will be Valverde looking, and surely if Valverde is there, Bradley Wiggins can't be too far away either. While still a long way back in this bike race, a sad day for American cycling, a sad day for Levi Leipheimer. 3 nasty crashes have knocked him out of any chance at all of winning this year's Paris-Nice.
He will plummet from the overall standings. The only good thing to be taken away, he will finish up. He does have a chance in the time trial to do something on the stage, but his overall dreams and hopes have been dashed on that final descent down the Col de Vence.
Who could have believed that was going to happen at the start of today's stage? And in fact, if you look at that main peloton, Bob, there are not many riders there. There's a big lead-out train at the front as we charge now onto the Promenade des Anglais, and still I would expect to see Alejandro Valverde looking to try and get himself a little bit of glory.
And 6 seconds time bonus to move a little bit closer to Bradley Wiggins in the overall standings if Valverde, and he has put his teammates on the front of the peloton, and that pressure was what caused the chaos on the descent. Valverde looking for that 6-second time bonus from Bradley Wiggins.
Oh, they're getting swamped now, though, Bob. Look at that. There's a lot of riders moving up along the outside. In fact, in second position, it's still Bradley Wiggins, and he's got all of his Sky teammates alongside him. A little bit further back, you can now start to see everybody queuing up onto the wheel of Wiggins. Wiggins now, this is the final road stage. He'll have to come out tomorrow and try and win this race in the individual time trial. Moving up there, you see Damiano Cunego is moving up to the front end. I can't see Alejandro Valverde anywhere at all in this charge to the line. Well, there he is there at the bottom there in the light green jersey. That's Valverde. They're lining themselves up now for this big sprint. It'll be Geraint Thomas on the front end of the main field. There is coming the big acceleration now. It's going to be Europcar taking over control at the front end of this peloton. Wiggins sits up now alongside his teammate Geraint Thomas. He knows he's not going to lose any time here this afternoon. Now the acceleration starts. Europcar in control. That looks like Thomas Vogel trying to lead out one of his teammates. Somebody's moving down the left-hand side of the road now as we come into the final few hundred meters. Now who's going to be taking this one out? It looks to me as if this is one of the riders from Vacances Soleil, but in the middle there in the white jersey, that's John Degenkolb. He is a great sprinter. We saw him win 2 stages of the Dauphiné Libéré last year. Right, queuing up onto his wheel there, you can see Degenkolb coming out. That looks like Craig Henderson over on the left-hand side as well in the dark blue jersey of Lotto. And the charge for the line, John Degenkolb. He will get third place. Alejandro Valverde is washed away, so there will be no difference in the time between Bradley Wiggins and Alejandro Valverde tonight, but there will be a change in the overall classification because Levi Leipheimer will disappear from the top 3. Look at that big strong sprint there, Bob, by Degenkolb.
One of the young German fast men in the professional ranks, the rider from 1T4i. gets a deserved field sprint win. Romain Fayou doing the lead out here. He's the sprinter from the Vacances Soleil squad. Degenkolb very sharply finding that wheel. It was a pretty good dash to the line by Fayou, but a long ways out. And now Degenkolb drives, and he is unassailable in this final sprint, but it's only for third place.
Well, last year we talked a lot about him in the Criterium de Dauphiné towards the middle of the year, a Tour de France preparation race. Let's not forget, though, the man who won the glory on the day, Thomas de Gent, like he did last year, wins a stage in Paris-Nice. Last year, it was the first one. This year, it's the penultimate one. So let's have a look at confirmation of those stage results. And again, getting himself that victory, 6 minutes and 18 seconds ahead of Raim Tarameh, who did crash on the descent down towards Nice. John Degenkolb is up there in third place. Greg Henderson, the sprinters had their day because also Hushoff up in fifth place. Fayou faded a little bit over the last few meters to finish in seventh. Well, let's have a look a little bit further down the course, though, to see exactly where Levi Leipheimer is. Bob, this is certainly one of those days in his career that he will want to forget.
He will definitely want to put this behind him. He will have another time trial in his career tomorrow, and he is going still to the finish line with his three teammates, but they've lost a lot of time. The Lamprey rider Matthew Lloyd, the Australian road champion previously, but Levi Leipheimer, a very disappointing day. Everything looking great on the top of the last climb of the open road in Paris-Nice, but Levi Leipheimer will lose a ton of time and his chance to win this great stage race.
Well, second career win at Paris-Nice for this man, Thomas de Gent. He leapt out of the pack. A little bit of a surprise, really, last year, but that was a defiant performance by him this afternoon. And what a great week for Team Vacances Soleil, Bob. 3 wins, and as you said, the big possibility of an overall victory for their man who will line up tomorrow in the time trial, Louis Viestra. While all of the celebrations are going on, Levi Leipheimer still has to finish.
Still has to get to the finish line. He's just got a few hundred meters to go, but a very disappointing day. Tony Martin there and his teammates from Omega Quickstep will lead him to the finish line with a couple of other riders also who crashed on that last descent, including Matthew Lloyd, the man in the pink jersey from the Lamprey team.
Well, you know, Bob, I can't believe how mean and awful Lady Luck is sometimes, because Levi Leipheimer rode the perfect Paris-Nice leading up to that individual time trial tomorrow in an ideal position, and then all of a sudden she threw everything at him in one day. So will we go back now to our Michelob Ultra ride of the day? Can go to none other, really, Bob, than Thomas de Gent.
Great breakaway with Raim Tarameh throughout the stage. Tarameh attacked him first on the Col d'Avance, but Thomas de Gent proved to be much stronger. He went over the line with a gigantic advantage over the peloton. None other can be the ride of the day than that man, Thomas de Gent.
Yes, presented by Michelob Ultra. On the top of the leaderboard, this is the 6th day in a row that he's climbed up there to take the yellow jersey. Bradley Wiggins had made no bones about the fact, Bob, that he wants to win this bike race, but it will still be a very dramatic battle tomorrow in the individual time trial up to the top of the Col d'Ez.
6 uphill miles to glory for Bradley Wiggins. He hasn't put one pedal stroke wrong so far in Paris-Nice. Now it's down to him, the individual time trial up the Col d'Ez to finish off Paris-Nice.
And what a battle it's going to be. 6 seconds his advantage over Louis Viestra, 18 seconds over Alejandro Valverde, climbing into the top 5 now. TJ Van Garderen, he won't be too far away in the individual time trial either. Sylvain Chavanel, the Frenchman, in 8th place overall, looking for 1 minute and 16 seconds, and Angel Vicioso of Team Katusha in the top 10. Brent Bookwalter in 22nd place. Levi Leipheimer plunges down the overall classification to 39th place, 7 minutes and 36 seconds. We haven't seen him in much today, Bob, but still, TJ Van Garderen, 23 years of age, is the best young rider.
Lucky to avoid all the crashing drama, TJ Van Garderen finds himself in that white jersey for another day. He wants to finish on the podium. He's only 2 places away from being able to do that now.
Well, it's going to be a very important individual time trial tomorrow for TJ Van Garderen. Apart from the one bad day he had to the climb up to Mont, he's been omnipresent throughout the whole of this week. So don't forget, tomorrow the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra continues with stage 8 of Paris-Nice. It's man against the clock on the final stage tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on the NBC Sports Network. And don't miss the launch of Major League Soccer tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's FC Dallas taking on the New York Red Bulls. And for a full cycling schedule, log on to our website at nbcsports.com. Congratulations to Thomas de Gent, but don't miss tomorrow's time trial. Goodbye.